Appreciate you coming together. We had actually just planned to put out an updated press release on what was going on because there's not tons of news, but because of the interest and all the inquiries, we want to go ahead and have an availability. So I'll give you a quick update on what's going on, and then I'll be happy to answer any and all questions that people might have. We successfully got the crane in today about 12:15. I don't know how much the inside baseball in which you might be interested, but we actually started with a different crane, recognized that the wheels weren't broad enough to absorb the weight of the crane so as to avoid damage to the floor of Assembly Hall. So we had to reload and get another crane. It's a 135-foot crane from our friends at McAllister Machinery. They've been very cooperative with us. They brought it down from Indianapolis, and we got it here at 12:15. We actually have to take up the wooden floor that the team plays on and put down rubberized subflooring because that thing is so heavy and potentially damaging. We did make use of the time before 12:15. Our university engineers and our external engineers were on the scene. They were in what apparently is a fairly intricate catwalk network inside Assembly Hall to see as much as they could see from the inside, and they were also actually on the roof today. And those are our in-house lead engineers from university, and as well as the engineer from RC Engineers, which is the engineering firm that has been monitoring Assembly Hall for many years, has done our structural inspections on the roof. The engineers were able to confirm what we thought was the causation issue last night. So, in sort of layman's terms, which is all I know in the engineering world, there's a valley in the roof of an intentional design valley in the roof of Assembly Hall. Snow collected in there, and then as snow melted, it slid in and created a sort of a super load in that area. They speculate that it was probably the biggest load that the roof has borne, if you will. All that pressure went to where that plate was and essentially popped it off, which of course is a flaw in a variety of ways, but a targeted and unique event. So we do believe that we understand the cause and that it is largely limited to the plates that bear the full brunt of that snow. They were able to make a complete visual and physical inspection, both internally and externally. So that is behind where the siding is, if you will, as well as on the front end by virtue of having the crane there. Did find 2 or 3 other places where the steel plating was loose, none of which was imminent to fall. I want to emphasize that there weren't any plates that they thought were in any kind of short-term danger of popping off, but there were some that were loose. We continue to be working on the assessment, the nature of those plates, whether they do have any sort of structural utility or not, and then what the best method is going to be to remediate those. And those details are being worked out. We have been told that they are confident that they'll be able to completely assess and remediate, which is engineering talk for fix the plating, and give us a 100% all clear and confirmation that the plating is secure and Assembly Hall is safe. I'll add that while they were there, the RC engineers, the guys that review the structure, they were able to review the overall structure of the roof, and just as it was reflected in August or September when the last inspection was made, they're confident in the integrity of the structure of the roof itself. But that's not to minimize it. Obviously, there's a problem if the roof pinches down and pops a 50-pound plate off. In short, in sum, I guess the causation seems to be what we thought it was last night. The assessment and the remediation is ongoing. The engineers are confident that they'll be able to have that repaired and certify it as safe before the next men's basketball game, which I think is next Sunday. And then we're also confident that it'll be done in time to hopefully reschedule Iowa back here at Assembly Hall at a time that's mutually convenient for both teams. I'll also mention that the women's game is still ongoing tonight. We're going to keep those areas roped off in an abundance of caution, even though the engineers have indicated that there's no danger at all of those plates coming down because they've inspected all of them, and even the ones that are slightly loose are not in danger of coming down. But we're going to keep those roped off and not have any fans sitting there. So Barbara and I will be at the game tonight, and looking forward to finding some nice seats in the middle of the arena with the rest of the folks. In terms of the Iowa game being rescheduled, conversations are ongoing with Iowa. We're confident that we'll reach a mutually acceptable time and date within the 72-hour window that we have to do so, and we're confident that game will be here in Assembly Hall. So with that, I'd be happy to take any and all questions.
You know, Fred, yesterday you had said that you gave some thought to removing that fascia, if you will. You've decided against that and will repair it and keep it up there. Is that where you're going at this point?
The short answer is the whole remediation plan's not finalized. They're still, last night I think there was a feeling that those had a purely cosmetic function and therefore could come down without having any structural ramifications to it. They're trying to make sure that's right. So they're into the blueprints and doing engineer testing things. And so, so the short answer is we're not sure that will be the alternative. They have a number of proposed approaches. They're fine-tuning that and testing that and doing all those sorts of things. But they are to the point where they gave us a great deal of comfort that it was quite fixable. There'll be belt and suspenders at least on it for multiple protections. And frankly, given the detail in which the structural engineers have gone over that area, it's probably will be the safest building in the Big Ten, if not the country, when they're done.
Yeah, the engineers just completed what was a very extensive review, as Fred said, both inside and out, behind the wall and in front of the wall with the crane. They are right now meeting to try to work on the remediation plan. So now they have all of their data, and now they're working on exactly how to affect the fix. Again, they've given us some comfort level as to how, what the time frame will be in rough terms, but they're working on exactly how they're going to do it.
Have they preliminarily said why they think those other plates were loose?
Probably the same cause. Again, the roof, because of the snow load, again, it's designed to flex. It's a cable roof structure. It's designed to come down a bit with the weight on it. Came down, and it came flush to the top of the wall, and probably the same effect.
Was it the same section where those loose plates were found, where the damage was?
One of them was.
Were they all, I guess, in similar, the other ones that weren't there, in similar sections elsewhere on the roof?
Exactly, the low point of the curve.
Do you anticipate any changes to the roof to prevent that in the future? Or?
That's something that we're going to have to look at long-term. We, again, an exceptional amount of snow and ice up there, and and then all of a sudden it starts to melt all at once, as you're seeing. The good news to report is that we did accelerate the melting this morning, trying to assist it a little bit with some natural heat. And so now all the snow and ice is gone. So the roof has flexed back exactly the way it's supposed to. But we do need to look at that long term. If we know that, again, this is probably, according to the engineers, the deepest snow and ice accumulation that roof has probably seen. And so now that we know that can affect, that we need to look at some other remediations. And that's part of the assessment we'll do long term.
I probably note just, I'm sorry, but my understanding is that the fix for those plates will be done to respond to a similar once in 100 years snow. Now, we'll probably do some things, as I understand it, to try to mitigate that up on the roof, but we're not relying on the fact that this kind of load won't happen again. It'll be engineered to address this severe or even a more severe load going
That's
forward.
exactly right. Now that we know that the roof will flex to this degree, now we're going to accommodate that at the top of the wall.
I'm sorry to interrupt your question.
No, that's okay. I was just wondering if you know how much the roof flexed. You know how?
I do not. It's in low inches, I know that. It's not a
Tiny amount.
tiny amount.
Is there a draining system on the roof?
Yes, there is. And as we reported last night, our fear going into this was that the drains were frozen, but yet the snow was melting. When we get up there last night, the drains were working, and they were working really well today. So, so all of that structure worked as it's supposed to. And again, the roof worked as it's supposed to.
You mentioned that the plates, whether they might have any structural reason. Is there a reason now to believe, or you guys come up with a reason to believe that they might actually serve a structural purpose? Is that something like engineers looked at and said, maybe we can't just get rid of these things?
That's what they're working on now, everything has a redundancy in engineering design and architectural design, and so, as Fred said, they're going back through the old drawings. They've got the original blueprints of the building, trying to look at what was the intent of the time. It's impossible to probably get back to the people that designed it. So all you have in a history of a building is the blueprints, and so they're going back to that and then looking at what we can do going forward.
But to your point, Dustin, it looked last night like it was purely cosmetic. It looks like now there might be some other utility to it, and so that's part of what they're doing in sorting out the fix.
Should you guys decide for the plates to be removed, is this something you guys would want to do immediately or after this?
We'll rely on the engineer's advice on how to do the fix that makes it the most safe. It'd be hard to speculate whether it's going to be a plate on or plate off solution, and really think it's smartest to wait until we really know the definitive solution from the engineers.
Is the part of the structural concern, is it that you're having, is it part of it that you think that the metal plates are possibly helping hold those panels that are that make up the facade in place? And how much of a concern is there that possibly the roof could have gotten down into one of those panels to push it out?
No, that is not one of the concerns. But to touch on your question is that, and as Fred notes, as we were thinking about them being completely ornamental, everything is connected to something else. And you want to make sure that if you remove something else or change something else, it doesn't have an impact further that you didn't initially consider, and that's what the engineers are looking at now.
That's a good question.
Yeah, if you decide to remove the plates, you know how long that process would take?
Not long.
A day or multiple days? How long would that take, you think?
I don't want to say exactly, but given how quickly, once we got the crane in today and how quickly they were able to inspect all of the reaches of those 4 sections, we believe that the plates could be unscrewed and lowered fairly quickly. We were able to do an assessment of those 4 areas of the building from the inside of the building with the crane in about 3 hours.
And not to be redundant, but the other beams you said were loose and not an immediate threat. Could they
Correct.
be a threat at some point, or do you not think that they could get any worse than where they are now?
We're not going to let them be.
Okay.
And that's to Fred's point. One, we're going to err on the caution of safety absolutely right now, and then we're going to get right back up there with the solution and whatever that solution is.
Just to be super clear, so they're loose, but not in an imminent danger of falling. They're either going to be removed, or the plates will probably be removed under any scenario. The issue is whether they go back up in a more secure way, and that's part of what they're thinking about. So we're not going to leave them up there loose. They'll either come off and stay off, or they'll be adhered in a way that the engineers are 100% confident they won't come down. huge snow load or not.
Okay.
Do you think you've cleared the main roadblock to setting a new date with Iowa now that you got the clearance, confidence from the engineers?
I think getting confidence clearance from the engineers that we could host in time was the key part on my end of making sure the facility is available. So that was the threshold issue. Now it's just a matter of the two programs in consultation with the Big Ten, finding a date. And so I think, to your point, since we've cleared the hurdle of the engineers having confidence that it'll be a safe building to host the game, they'll be able to find the date.
Is there a possibility of it being before the Ohio State game? I know you said you were confident that the building would be ready by then, but I think there's a window in both of your schedules between next Tuesday and next weekend. Would it be possible to have them in before the Ohio State game?
Yeah, I don't want to speculate on a day because I'm not even really involved in those conversations, but I do think that the engineers believe that the building will be ready well before the Ohio State game.